This is Jason Kanigan, president of Sales on Fire. I haven't done an interview for a while, and so I thought Brad Gosse here would be a great person to talk to. Particularly, I wanted to focus in on what it's like being a true entrepreneur. I don't think a lot of people who are struggling have the right headspace, and I've had my ups and downs, I know, and I would go in and out of this right headspace, and I know that talking to Brad has really helped me out. So, Brad, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks. Happy to.
So, for those of you who don't know, Brad is the author of The Chronic Marketer, which is a book we'll get into in a little bit. And he's the owner of a company called Vector Tunes. And he's into a lot of other sort of mini businesses in the background, which is, I think, tapping into a strong point we'll discuss later, which is multiple streams of income. So, Brad, tell us, when did you realize that you were an entrepreneur and not an employee?
First time I got suspended for talking back to a teacher, probably 6th grade.
Okay. So all the way back then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would have understood what that word meant when I was that age, but I understood that I didn't work well with authority. I was unemployable.
So, I mean, have you had any regular jobs?
Oh, yeah. Mostly short-lived, a lot of, dramatic bridge burning quits. Not, here's my 2 weeks notice and I'll happily stick around and train the next guy. More like, oh, busiest night of the week? Can't make it because you're a bitch, or like, just wasn't for me. They were the only job I ever had that was sort of long term. I had two, I guess. I got into telemarketing when I was really young because it was in the late '80s recession period when jobs were scarce. But telemarketing companies had such high turnover that if you were willing to grind it out on the phone and, literally just sit there with a box of 3x5 lead cards and, Glengarry Glen Ross, you know what I mean? Just hammering the phone. Yep. And, ashtray and, it was like, and somehow I guess maybe because I needed to be, I was good at it. I could hustle and I could make the calls and I could make the sales and so I did that for a little while, for I think maybe 2 or 3 years, and then I went to work in my dad's furniture store for maybe another 3 or 4 years, and I learned a lot about owning a business from my dad because he owned a business, and it was kind of new to him as well, and realized that when you work for your dad, somebody's got to die before you get promoted. Right. So that didn't really work for me. I didn't want to wait around for Dad to die. So I kind of went out on my own, did my own thing, and was always into computers and stuff. So started doing things on the side, and before I knew it, I was making enough money to justify leaving and being a full-time entrepreneur, and that was like 20 years ago.
Right, and it's been all uphill from there. But
well, no.
So working in a shop, I guess, with your dad, a furniture store. I mean, what did you see there that I guess you must have learned a lot about the limitations of having a physical store?
Yes, and I think that's one of the reasons why my business is all digital. I'm not a physical products guy. I don't invest in physical product businesses unless it's like stock buying. I don't really. I don't get involved in anything with a lot of moving parts. I learned that, but I also learned a lot about sales from my dad. He's an amazing sales guy, so I learned, how to sell to people, how to talk to people, how to tell a story. I learned working for him that you had to tell. People didn't just buy the furniture; they bought the story. They want to know who made it, how it was made. Everything about the process, and the more story you told them, the more they wanted to buy it, because you buy a kitchen table, what are you going to talk about with your friends when they come over and they see your new kitchen table? You're going to talk about how they made it. You're going to talk about, so you walk into one store and they're like, yeah, it comes on a container from China, And then you go into another store and they're like, well, it's made by the Amish in Pennsylvania and it takes 4 weeks to do this and they have to dry the wood in a special barn with this, you know what I mean? And like, people are like, they get caught up in the story and they buy the story, not the product.
Right. People can't see, the listeners can't see, but I'm nodding vigorously. I've been nodding for the last couple of minutes here. Yeah. So all this experience in developing a digital business and that, getting some success at a pretty young age in that, it led you then to produce a book called Chronic Marketer. Tell us about the book and the process of making it, launching it, and what it did for you.
Okay. So the book is essentially just a combo of sort of my life story and life lessons that I've learned as an entrepreneur, and how I'm a rules-based person. So when something happens to me, I try and create a policy mentally that I follow from that point on. And so a lot of it is that kind of thing where it's like, here's how I learned this lesson, and here's how I would do things in the future. But I went with the angle of sort of the pot-smoking entrepreneur because it's true to my personality, and because I've always discovered that there's a subculture of those people in every vertical, and nobody was speaking to them. And I thought, if I tap this audience, they might listen because nobody's tapping them, right? That's kind of the key to niche marketing these days, is finding is a niche, as the Americans like to say.
I say niche.
Oh, good. We're going to get along just fine, you and it's I don't know. It's just this. It's like you find this audience that nobody's talking to, and you speak their language, and they jump all over it, and that just works for me. And so I built my product around that. I built my book around that, and I was able to build a list on Facebook way in advance of the book launch, and I did it all with paid traffic, and then I brought a bunch of affiliates in and asked them to promote, basically with nothing, no compensation whatsoever, other than I owe you one. Right. And a lot of them cashed it in, and a lot of them never bothered to, and it was just, they were just happy to be a part of it. And I told my list that I built, I need your help. I want to be a #1 bestseller on Amazon, and I need your help to do that. And you got to buy this on this day. Don't buy it early, don't buy it late. Buy it at this time. And I sent them. One of my favorite tricks is I like to attach iCal or Outlook, calendar files to emails with all kinds of data in them.
Okay.
Because they're really small files, right? But you can, if I've got a launch, next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I'm telling my list days in advance that I'm doing this. No better way to keep them in the loop than to have them add one of those things to their calendar, right? Because now it's going to ping them on their phone. It's going to, and you can put the URL in the calendar thing. Like it'll all show up for them.
Right. So you're giving them instructions and making it easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, they're potheads, right? They need their hands held a little bit more than the average.
Well, it sounds like a great idea.
So it works. I prepped them, and I did the whole, coordinated launch on April 20th. And I did a live video stream from my basement, smoking bongs with my, wife and my assistant at the time. Nice. Made it into a fun event. And I got to number 40 on Amazon overall.
Impressive, yeah.
Not many people have done that, and got to number 1 in all my categories, obviously, and was able to leverage that into speaking, advising, all kinds of great stuff.
So it has had a huge magnification factor in terms of reach for you as well.
Yes, definitely.
So anybody who's interested in Chronic Marketer, you can still get it on Amazon. I have reviewed it myself. I have a video review of it on salestactics.org. I'll probably link to it in the post that contains this very interview, so you could go there after. So after being in and out of a successful business, you then created something called Vector Tunes. Why don't you take a quick minute and summarize that for us, and why you picked that sort of digital product?
So it actually started with my book. My book has a lot of cartoons in it.
Right.
And I hired a cartoonist. I'm always kind of been into that style of website, not using stock photos, but using custom cartoons and illustrating your point that way. And so I hired a cartoonist in the Philippines to do the cartoons for my book. She was amazing, just really good at what she was doing. And I remember her telling me, her dream was to be a full-time cartoonist because it wasn't an easy job to come by. And so I had to do the cartoons for my book, and it wasn't, a significant draw on my budget to keep her. So I just kept her. I was like, you know what? I'll just keep you. You can do stuff for my sales letters because I had this sales letter style where, it kind of looks like a comic book rather than sort of taking them through the typical dear friend style. Most of the time I do them in a very comic booky format. And that seems to work really well for me, for my style. So I just kept her to do that. And, now I've got this person doing these one-off drawings that I use once on a product that's probably not going to be seen again. Maybe I should start cataloging them and just selling them to other people as clip art. And so, I think I waited till I had about 1,000 images, and then I, cataloged them, put them up on a website, and just saw if anybody wanted to start buying them. And sure enough, people started buying them. And it wasn't just, people from my list, but it was like random Google traffic was coming in and buying stuff. And I was like, okay, this could scale. So now I have 6 cartoonists, and just one by one, sort of built it up into something that now we used to update every week, and now we're almost up to twice a week that we update with hundreds of new images, and it's a big catalog of stuff that you can use for anything you're designing.
Right. And from my perspective, from the outside looking in, I know we've worked a little bit on this. When you started off, this was just like an idea. You didn't have customers really lined up for it, right? It was just like, hey, I think this would be a good idea.
Yeah.
And and I think that that really ties into the purpose of our talk here today, which is that I think a lot of people who want to be business owners or entrepreneurs figure that they have to have it all planned out perfectly before they start. And the truth is that I've also learned from working with you a little bit and talking with you is that sometimes you just should try stuff. And I know that mentally you can shut yourself down if you're not careful, and you can stop being creative, or you can get scared and go, well, what if it doesn't work? And well, what if it does work? Tell us a little bit about your approach. How do you know when it's time to transition, pivot, and commit to a new idea?
I'm always testing new ideas, so really you got to kind of dip your toe into the water and see if it's going to work. So a lot of the time I'll just try, I'm sure you've heard the term minimum viable product, right? Like, put it up and see if anybody bites. Put it out on social media. Spend a couple bucks on ads. You don't have to go crazy. A lot of the time I test new products, I spend maybe less than $100 testing the ad spend. And if I can't get any traction, I know it's a dead dog, and I just keep going. I let it die, and I move on to the next idea, and I don't get hung up on it. For me, I probably have about 7 turds for every 1 diamond.
Right. And that pays perfectly well.
Yeah.
That ratio. Yeah. So fail fast, keep trying things, try different things. And now a project that we worked on is Brushy Bear.
Yeah.
Which was a sort of a vector cartoon idea that basically had not much in the way of personality to begin with. It was just a cartoon bear with a mohawk, right?
Yeah, he had no story. He had nothing.
Right. And it wasn't a passion of yours to get into dental hygiene, which is the idea of Brushy Bear. But it was an idea that you had and you wanted to try out and test, and it took off. I do think you have a passion for trolling people on social media.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think that's where it fits in for you. But tell us a little bit about Brushy Bear, and I want to give this to people as an example of just trying stuff out. Talk I guess a little bit about the developing the personality, the story, what you did with social media and advertising for it, and what's turned out.
Okay. So my business is graphics licensing now, right? I have Vector
Mm-hmm.
Tunes, and we have, I think, 17,000 graphics that you can buy for about $2 a piece, and it's clip art, right? It's the business is a scale-based business. The more items I have in my catalog, the better I do. But I've always been saying to myself along the way, I've got all this great artistic talent working for me. Why can't I come up with my own cartoon brand, my own character, bring something to life that didn't have life before? And so I've tried a few things that didn't work. I've gone through a number of cartoon characters that just didn't have any traction for one reason or the other. And so I came up with this idea for a cartoon bear that has a toothbrush mohawk and he cleans your teeth at night. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not creepy. So I called him Brushy Bear and came up with Flossy Fox, his sidekick, and Cavity Cat, the evil villain, and just sort of. I remember when I said it out loud, I thought this sounds ridiculous. But I have people on staff that can flesh out my ideas no matter how ridiculous. So I had 10 drawings done of Brushy Bear based on that description, and 10 of Flossy Fox, and 10 of Cavity Cat. And then I sat on the drawings. I left them on my hard drive for months. And then one day you called and said, "Hey, you need stuff done. It's the end of the year. Let's wrap up any projects." And I said, "You know what? I got this cartoon bear sitting here. How do you feel about writing an origin story?" And you were like, "Yeah, I can do that. I know my way around this genre. I think I can put something together." And you came up with the origin story for Brushy Bear. You helped to bring him to life because he didn't have a story. He didn't have a reason for being. Why does he do that? We don't know. So brought him to life with a book and with an origin story and a song. And the song did well on social media. You wrote the song as well, and then just kind of blew it up from there. Found the audience, and it wasn't right away. I tested, I think, 3 or 4 audiences that failed hard, and then I found the audience that fit, and I'm still milking that audience.
Right. So it's not an instant success formula either. It's you stumble a little bit and you figure out the next step as you go.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, we shelve products, right? It's like we try an idea, we don't even get to the test phase. It gets shelved because other opportunities come up, and then you have a break, and you're like, "Hey, what did I put on the shelf?"
Right.
And you pull it off the shelf, and you're like, "Wow, why did I leave that on the shelf for so long?"
But now it's the right time to pull that out.
Yeah.
So there again is an example of you just trying something and testing it, and you get a little success, and then you're looking to see, well, okay, where else can I take this? What else can I do with this? And I mean, you're in front of dental hygienists, dental associations for various states, and end customers, kids, parents, right? There's a lot of different market segments to this.
Yep.
And so, I mean, tell us a little bit about your thought process when you're getting into something like that, because I think people see the end result and they go, "Oh wow, I'd really like to have that," right? The sort of the mushroom at the top, right? What about at the very beginning? How do you know, okay, I'm going to stick with this for a little bit at least and test it out? I think that's where people fall down.
You have to love it and you have to get traction. But I think what I see people do too often is they spend so much time creating the product they never actually like to keep it. It's like their poker hand. They keep it so hidden from everybody. No, you can't see it yet. It's not perfect yet. It's not ready. Nope, still working on it over here. Nope, had to change the name. Had to redesign the logo. Nope, not going. Nope, can't see it yet. Decided to pivot. Wait a minute. You haven't even shown it to anybody yet. Like,
right. Get some feedback.
Yeah, there's this. Do you know what it is? People have this, and I don't know what it is. It's like this weird reality distortion about the internet that the minute they put something up online, everybody has seen it. And if I show this to 20 people,
that means everybody.
That means everybody has seen it.
their world. Okay.
For whatever reason, they know intelligently that's not the right answer, but for some reason that's the way their brain is. So I've struggled with this with clients before, where they're doing ad buys and they're like, but what do you mean we're split testing price? Well, yeah, we're going to split test price. Yeah, but what if this guy sees it for this price and then this guy?
Right.
Just shut up, relax,
do what I say.
Like, understand that you're not going to create a war of price here. Like, if somebody contacts you and says, hey, I saw it cheaper over there, give them the cheaper price.
Right.
They contacted you. That means we're doing something right if they contacted you.
Right.
You're creating problems out of solutions. You have a customer on the phone, and you're concerned about him saying, hey, how come I see two prices? Hey, what's the lower price? You get that price, sir. Simple.
Right.
Right. But in their mind, they think, wait a second, if I show this for $700 here and $900 here, people are going to think I'm scamming them somehow. But I see different prices on products all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a part of the test, but in their mind, everybody saw both,
right.
And there's going to be outcry because it's like, if there's outcry, we're doing something awesome. Like, we've done something great if we've got outcry. So I think they're afraid to do that. So when we had Brushy Bear, it was a 30-second song that we had done by a guy on Fiverr. You wrote the song. I had a guy perform it. I made a little video and keynote. It was everything was like, let's see if this works.
Right. And in a way, you're going like, this is retarded.
Yeah. When you're doing
it's silly. And then it came out at like regular speed, and then we talked again, and I said, well, I actually imagined in my head that this was a faster tempo.
Yeah.
And you had it sped up. The video sped up twice as fast, I think.
Yeah, and it made it.
And that's when it took off. Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing where I had to test small. I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars testing this thing. I wanted to get it out for as little as possible, and get a minimum viable product. And once I found that there was an audience for it, I could grow it. And there was no 5-year plan or end goal, or it was like, all right, let's take the next step and see if there's another step worth taking.
Mm-hmm. Can I punch into this marketplace?
Yeah, maybe I can, maybe I can't. Maybe so many times you try and enter a market that you don't understand and you don't speak the language, and they just ignore you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we really got at something that most people don't talk about or uncover in interviews with the last few minutes there. I got one more question for you, Brad, and then we'll wrap up. It's just, I guess, a good old standard. What do you think is the most important quality for an individual to have to be an entrepreneur? That they have to have, they must have?
I think you have to be able to make decisions and take action. I guess that's two qualities, but I guess being decisive is really the biggest thing. The people I see that I have a few friends that are perpetual entrepreneurs. They have good jobs. They get packaged out of their job, or they quit or something, and then they go on this entrepreneurial journey for a little while. But it's really just, they're not really doing it. They're kind of playing. And the people I see that just never quite get to the finish line are the people who can't make decisions quickly. And they need to they need to do spreadsheets before they can make decisions, and they need to, and the most successful people I know are the guys and the girls who just, they're presented with something and it's yes or no right away, and they can make large decisions quickly and keep going.
So scramble forward,
mm-hmm.
in a way.
Yeah.
That's the kind of feeling that I'm getting.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not going to know everything right off the bat. If you're entering in a marketplace that's new to you, you're not going to know the secret words and phrases that they use to recognize each other and relax when it comes to buying and selling. You're going to have to learn that. But get in there and stick with it. All right. We've been talking with Brad Gosse, owner of Vector Tunes. Brad, just before we go, is there any website or anything that you would recommend, that you own, that our listeners visit?
Vector Tunes, definitely. TOONS, like cartoons. VectorTunes.com is my. It's where you probably get the most value.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking with us about entrepreneurship, Brad.
Thank you.